Point yesterday, and we had discussed about different kinds of samadhis. That is vitarka, vichara, sananda, and sasmita. These are four kinds of samadhis, and these are all what you call sampragyata samadhis. These are the four kinds of sampragyata samadhis. In fact, when we go forward with Madhusudana Bhashya and this particular Antika on this particular shloka, we'll slowly realize that he is saying what he's trying to mention, that yunjan eva sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah shantim nirbana paramam matsanstam adhigachati. So there could be a temptation in the mind of the student to imagine whether Bhagavan is advising that this devotee, Arjuna, and whosoever is a sadhaka, who establishes himself in a deep samadhi, is he going to imagine Lord Vishnu with his Chaturbhuja, Saguna Sakara Rupa, or what sort of meditation is going to be? What kind of samadhi? What will be that Prashanta Vahita Vritti that samadhi is going to experience? So before driving home his point about what is the purpose of this samadhi and where this particular aspirant or the practitioner of yoga is being led to, what sort of a reality he's being led to, he is giving us a short introduction about there are two types of samadhis, right? So you have those five levels, okay? And what are these? That when you are going, this Kshipta, Mudha, and Vikshipta are not pure yogic bhumis. They are normal Lokika Vyavahara. Vikshipta is the Sattvika state. Once you cross that over, you are entering into the first stage of yoga, which is Ekagrata. And that is broadly that culminates in Sampragyata Samadhi. And this Sampragyata Samadhi is what? This is actually Salambana. There is a certain dependence. It is Sapeksha. It depends on either a Sthula Vishaya or a Shukshma Vishaya. Either it is an object on which you are meditating, like you might meditate on Lord Shiva, or you can meditate on a temple, you can meditate on a symbol, when you are looking at it and there is an object, sthula vishaya, which is visible to your eyes, and you can touch it and feel its presence, that is a sthula vishaya. It could be a sukshma vishaya, which is not immediately achievable in jnana rupa through your senses, but you can do vichara, you can reach there. There's a sukshma. And then you go beyond that, then you are meditating on the indriyas, which is sananda sampragyata samadhi, is grahana rupa, grahya, grahana, and grahitri rupa. What is hinting that we had discussed yesterday is broadly like this, that when the rajasa and tamasa, the rajas and tamas, these two qualities or dispositions in a sadhaka become very thin, almost nullified, almost eliminated from its consciousness. But understand one thing, there is nothing called a perfect balance of sattva, tama, and rajas in any of us. If there's a perfect balance, it is Mahaprakriti Rupa. We're going to fall dead. Same way, you cannot have only Sattvika Avastha or only Rajas Avastha or only Tamasika Avastha. The laziest person also has certain Sattvika and Rajasika guna in him. Otherwise, he'll not exist. Right? That's the only possibility. That there are both positives and negatives to this whole theory. That in your best spiritual state, in your most sukhatmaka anubhava kala, when you are experiencing a lot of delight and happiness, remember, as I had mentioned you earlier, there are two more guys working in the company, but there is only one computer and one office desk. And that guy is Sattva. So you are having Sukhatmaka Anubhuti. You are very happy about it. That guy goes. Then Rajas comes and sits in the chair. Then you have Dukhatmaka Anubhuti. Because Rajas is all about stress and strain. It's a dynamic principle. You have to do so many things. And there will be discomfort and stress and strain and all sorts of things. And then you have Moha or Mudhata. Then the Tamas comes and sits on the chair. You have laziness and you want to fall asleep and you want to do anything. All sorts of things. And you have desire for food and stuff like that. Tamasic thing. So all this, that's why Bhagavan says that you try to go beyond these three gunas, then you will reach me. Because any of the gunas, You have to accept that all the three gunas can come and become present, declare their presence anytime. We have to go beyond this. Here, what he's trying to say is that this samadhi samprakyata, which is a very subtle state of meditation, much higher than the normal vikshipta stage, is nevertheless not a complete state of fulfillment, of self realization. He will take us there. So, in order to take us there, first he's explaining to us what are the kinds of sampragyata samadhi that we experience and what these words mean, what are these levels, and when a sadhaka sort of goes beyond that. These are technical stuff. The words may be a little bombastic to the ears if you listen to them for the first time. It's all Latin and Greek for the first time, somebody listening to these terms and terminologies, but they have a lot of significance. So it will happen after some time, after listening to it once or twice, and when you read the Yoga Sutras, you will have a much better understanding. But we are doing a very summary, crash course kind of an introduction to Yoga Sutras with regard to our understanding of different types of samadhi. So this is how we had discussed yesterday that what happens, te samadhu upasarga vitthane siddhaya. Then he has first alerted that when you do yoga sadhana, you will get a lot of subtle realizations, subtle siddhis. And there is a kind of energies. You get these bundles of energies coming to you, and we have discussed that yesterday, that Prativa, Shravana, Vedana, Adarsa, Aswada, Varta. So Shravana is being able to hear what normally one can't. Others is being able to see what normally you can. And Aswada is being able to recognize, taste, which normally you can't with your Rasana Indriya. Varta is similarly smelling things which others can't. And Prativa is being able to see realities which are not yet, they haven't yet unfolded. They are not yet here. It could be you can know about future, you can know about past. So these kinds of great intuitive capacities sort of become easily achievable to you. Then he says that a person generally sthani upanimantrane sangasmaya karanam punar anishta prasanga. He alerts the sadhaka that a person who becomes a madhubhumika, that means he sort of has graduated out of the prathama kalpika and is before pragya jyoti and atikranta bhavaniya. At that higher level, he is kind of not impressed by the gods and goddesses and their spiritual powers because he has gone beyond it. And Swarga Sukha is also completely irrelevant for a person who has gone till the atikranta bhavaniya. In Yoga Sutras, one particular word is very critical that we will discuss it today. It's called Viveka Khyati. Viveka Khyati is a state where you are able to distinguish between what is Prakriti and its Karya, Maya or Prakriti or Pradhana and its Karya, and what is Purusha. Purusha is Shuddha Chaitanya Swarupa. It is the Nimitta Karana. And what is the Upadana Karana? These two words we have to remember in Vedanta and all this Indian philosophy. Nimitta Karana is the efficient cause. Upadana Karana is the material cause. So you are making a golden necklace. What is the material cause? Lump of gold. Who is the Nimitta Karana? Nimitta Karana is a smart goldsmith who can actually hammer it, heat it, and give it different shapes, and then makes it a beautiful necklace. Is the Nimitta Karana. But and then Brahman in some of our darshana is like a that spider is sort of it spins the web right out of its own saliva. So it's called avinna nimitta upadana karana. Some people interpret like that. Here Purusha is only nimitta karana of this Srishti in Sankhya and Yoga. He has nothing to do with the materiality of the reality that we experience. Purusha, that satta swarupa, that consciousness has nothing to do with the material galaxy. It has nothing to do with the Milky Way, the solar system, the comets, the stars, or anything. It has nothing to do with it. It is satta swarupa. It's pure consciousness. Then, where from all these material realities have emerged is for Sankhya and Yoga. They have emerged out of this particular thing called Prakriti or Pradhana. And then out of that comes Mahatattva, then Ahankara, and then Manas, and then all the Vikaras. That's how 25 things are there totally. Okay, now coming back here, he's saying that this particular sadhaka, this particular aspirant who is given to meditating on the truth, he is not distracted by any temptation sent out by the celestial beings. Okay, we have done that. And then he's saying, Mumukshuhu vi heyasya samadhi sutritaha Patanjalina. And he's saying that by Patanjali, it's obviously made very clear for the sadhakas that even though you are talking about an experience of peace or happiness, this peace or happiness mentioned by Bhagavan Krishna, Lord Supreme Himself, is not to be confused with what is spelled out in sutra number 17 in the first chapter of Yoga Sutras. What was that? Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmita Anugamat Samprakyataha. This is the penultimate stage of samadhi, which is spelled out, is referred to in our Yoga Sutras, first chapter, 17th Sutra. And this Parama Shanti need not be ever confused with these levels of samadhi. That is the academic point being made. Lest some of us who are doing some Sudarsana Kriyas or Pranayamas and experience a very subtle reality, we will say that, okay, we don't need Bhagavad Gita. I don't need to do Vedanta. Why? Because, I'm already in a very high level of experience. I can see subtle things. I can know about future. I can know what's going on in your mind. So these kinds of things can actually really, these are not fake stories. They can happen because Shastra says that yes, if you're a serious meditator, you might hit upon an opportunity to experience the blessings of the divine powers or whatever you call it, in the form of these siddhis. But you should never confuse them with that Parama Shantim. That you will get to know only by surrendering yourself to me, by being Makvara, and by knowing the meaning of Vedanta Vakya. That is the subtle difference. Having said that, we'll now go forward discussing a little. It's a very Avantara Veda. This is like an intermediate level discussion. We'll graduate to the next level. He's talking about different aspects of Samadhi. Let's get done with it. Samyak Sansara Viparjaya अनध्यवसाय रहितत्वेन प्रज्ञायत प्रकर्षेण विशेष रूपेण ज्ञायते भाव्यस्य रूपम येन स संप्रज्ञातः समाधिर भावना विशेषः. We have done it yesterday, right? So when you have you have dismissed the anxieties associated with doubt, false knowledge, and lack of yatna or laziness or inability to make effort. Some people have ADHD or what they call it, They have this inability to have focus for a longer span of time. Bhavyasya bhavana visheshaha. So this is essentially a way of meditating. It's a process. This is not a null point. This is a kind of subjective process. That is called samadhi. This is a subjective process. Remember, there is something going on. It's not a dull null point. It's not inactivity. It's not death. Okay? It's visheshaha. Bhavana hi Bhavyasya Vishyantara Pariharena Chetasi Punah Punah Niveshanam. What is bhavana? Then how to do meditation? That's samadhi vishesha. Punah Punah Niveshanam. So whatever you are meditating on, you are establishing that satta swarupa again and again in your chetasi, in your chetana. Chetas. Seventh case, Pratham Purusha chetasi. In your consciousness, you are establishing it again and again. Bhavya cha trividam grahya grahana gahitri veda. And what is that bhavya on which you are meditating? What is that bhavya padartha? And bhavya man is your consciousness. And that is happening in your meditation. And what is that bhavya padartha? There are three types. One is grahya. Grahya is whatever object you are trying to receive through your senses, through your meditation. Grahana. Grahya, then grahana. Grahana is this process of reception. And grahitri, that the person, the receiver, that we have discussed yesterday. Grahyam api duvidam stula sukshma bheda. So either it's physical thing, it's a gross thing, or it's a subtle thing. So if it's a gross thing, you will have one kind of thing that is called savitarka. It's associated with the word vitarka. We'll discuss that in detail today. And the other one is vichara. where it's sukshma abhoga. What are you meditating on? This subtle aspect of reality. That is vichara. We'll go forward on this. Divitam stula sukshma vedat taduktam shina vrittera vijatasya iva manir gahitri grahana grahyeshu tasta tad anjanata samapattihi. Okay, so what happens is that because of rajas and tamas, they become kshina. They have been reduced. They have been kind of nullified. Okay, emaciated, put to disuse, or have been sufficiently debilitated not to interfere with our spiritual practice. This rajas and tamas are different vrittis. Sattva is a good friend, but we have to go beyond sattva for atmajnana, but it's a very good friend. So once we have defeated rajas and tamas, their vrittis have become almost negligible. Avijadasya eva, like this avijata crystal money, grahitri grahana graheshu tasta tadanjanata samapattihi. That sampragyata samadhi takes the form of what? Is a bhavyasya punar nivesana, right? In bhavana. So this process, this subjective process, takes the form of either grahya, that means whatever object you are meditating on, or it takes the form of grahana, this whole process of reception, it takes that form. Okay, it has this tadakara vritti. Or it becomes that gahitri rupa, who is the receiver, your consciousness, your mind, it meditates on that human subject, the conscious subject, who is meditating on this. Okay, so it takes that form. So there are two words used, tastata, so it's again and again established there, it's located there, and then tad anjanata. Tad anjanat means tadakarata. This tadakarata, we have discussed that. For example, you are thinking about a horse, then as per our philosophical schools, what they say is that our consciousness is taking the form of that particular horse. There is tadakara vritti in our consciousness. And that is how the, aswa jnana, there is a aswa horse. You look at it, it's running. Then what is the aswata? What is the horseness of that horse? Right? That is the dharma. Dharmi is the horse. Horseness is this dharma, the quality, the aspect of it. Then this dharma, visishta dharmi, the horseness, that object called horse having horseness, this consciousness is taking the form of that dharma and dharmi. It's a complicated thing, but it's very easy to understand. So the consciousness is having tadakara vritti. And then we are aware of something called horse, that particular artha, that object, takes the form, takes place in our brain, and we have aswajnana, knowledge of the horse. The horse knowledge. Remember the three things we'll discuss today, that's very critical. Savada, artha, jnana. So one is the horse. But remember, just imagine if you're a little baby, you're about 2 years old, just remember those days. And if you have very early childhood memory, you'll laugh at it. A lot of objects used to come in front of us, and we used to look at them with a sense of wonder because we don't know what they mean. What are they? And the baby laughs at us, right? This is Papa, this is Mama. Before all that has been told to the boy or the girl, this little boy or girl, sort of playing and throwing its hands and legs in the air and looks at you and laughs. Does she recognize you're an enemy or a friend? It doesn't know. If you send a cobra also, the baby will play with it because it doesn't know. And if you send him to a very wild dog, also the baby will start playing because for it, there's no name and there's no memory. And what is there? There is just an object and it's seeing it and it's trying to connect with it. So what is the artha is that object. And what is the sabda? You say there is an apple. And this particular story is kind of often repeated in Vedanta classes in traditional acharyas sessions. They say that, this little boy, looks at an apple and says, Mama, what is this? The mom says, this is an apple. And the baby again sort of looks at it for a while and again says, what is this? Mom says, an apple. The mother doesn't get angry. She's kind of training the boy to understand this object is an apple. And after some time, again, the boy picks it up and looks at the mom and says, what? Mom smiles and says, an apple. And then after 4, 5 days, 6 days, there is an apple on the table of the bed. The baby picks it up, looks at the mom, and laughs, very proud that today he is going to disclose that he knows something. And he's saying, Mama. Mama says, what? He says, there's an apple. And mother is very happy that the boy has picked up one word. What has happened there? The boy has connected three things. The boy has connected one object, which is red in color, and now has learned to associate the circular shape or semicircular shape and the red color with the word apple. And then it has tasted, maybe it tests it, okay, it's a fruit. The mom says you can eat it. It tries to take a bite and succeeds. Then it associates this word apple with that particular semicircular object and its color and its taste. And then more information is gathered that it is very good and one apple a day keeps the doctor away and blah, blah, blah. Then the apple thing is enshrined in his memory. Then the moment, third time or fourth time, he looks at that semicircular red object, he knows a lot of things are already appearing in his mind. There is this word, apple, it comes up. Then it is associated immediately with the physical configuration. Then all kinds of qualities that it has, and what are the benefits that it can give you if you consume it. All these things are appearing in his mind. What is appearing, whatever has taken shape, is the apple knowledge, the knowledge of apple. That object is the apple. The word you're using, I'm saying apple, but what is the apple? In the book, you write apple, right? So that apple is just a sound thing and symbolically represented through alphabets. So apple is a shabda, apple is an object, artha, and apple is a jnana or knowledge or a certain form of consciousness which is now connected with the artha and the sabda. And that is how we have sabda, artha, jnana. When the samuha kind of sankirna, by them samahita, jnana happens in us. Okay, why am I mentioning this? Because we are going to discuss what is vitarka samadhi or savitarka samadhi. This will come. That the vitarka samadhi is meditation on a sthula vishaya, on a gross object like the deity, or say of Ma Durga or Lord Jagannath or the Holy Cross or anything. It's a physical object and it's a gross object available to the eyes and the ears and stuff like that. You are meditating on it. And the sthula, it has a physical form. It's not sukshma, it's not subtle. When you are meditating on that, and this particular samadhi that happens is called vitarka samadhi, or savitarka and nirvitarka. We will discuss that, how two forms are taken. Okay? So let's go there now. He's saying tad anjanata tanamayata, tad anjanata tadakarata or tanamayata nyadbhute chitte. When you have that thinning of these rajas and tamas, chitte bhavyamanasya eva utkarsayiti yavya. So bhavyamana, that object is what dominates. Because there is no rajas, so there will be no desire, I want to have it. No tamas, I want to enjoy it. No sorts of ideas or thoughts. The consciousness takes exactly the form of the object of meditation. That is the first level of samprajnata samadhi. Tatha vida samapatti tadrupaha parinamo bhavati. And therefore, samapatti is what? Samapatti is also explained beautifully. I had taken note of it. You know what is samapatti? That it's a certain pratyaksha vritti. Samapatti is what? Sustu rupena visayakari pratyaksha vritti. Sustu is what? In a very nice way, in a comprehensive way. You are seeing something. Okay, you're seeing something and comprehensively seeing it. And this pratyaksha vritti, this whole subjective process of seeing something, which is focused one object. There is an object that we have to keep in mind. That samapatti, that means it's grahya visayaka. There is something to be received through your consciousness. That sort of a meditation, which grahya visayaka samapatti, is what is hinted. Samapatti, samadhi, cha iti paryayaha. So you can, so what he's saying, jatha vijatasya nirmalesya spatikamanehe, tastad rupasraya vasad tad Tad rupa apattirevam nirmalasya chitasya tattad bhavanya vastu paragat tattad rupapattihi samapati samadhi iti the paryaya. So he's explaining, like for example, there is a crystal and you put a red flower in front of it, it immediately appears red. You put a blue flower, it looks blue. Same way, depending on whatever you are meditating on, your consciousness becomes parinata. It gets modified into that. It has tadakara vritti. And this is one level of, our sampragyata samadhi. Yadyapi गहित्री ग्रहण ग्राह्येषु इति उक्तं तथापि भूमिका क्रमवशाद् ग्राह्य ग्रहण ग्रहित्रीषु इति बोधव्यम. That I have discussed yesterday. It's much better to actually discuss it in a reverse way, starting with grahya, then grahana, then grahita. This subject matter. यतः प्रथमं ग्राह्यनिष्ठ एव समाधिर्भवति ततो ग्रहणनिष्ठोः ग्रहणनिष्ठः ततो ग्रहितृनिष्ठ इति गहित्रादिक्रमो अपि अग्रे व्याख्यास्यते. And that is what we have done yesterday, right? So he will first discuss about what is Grahyanishta Samadhi. Grahyanishta is of two kinds, Vitarka, and Vitarka Samadhi is again of two kinds. Savitarka, Nirvitarka. Then Vichara Samadhi, that's of two kinds, Savichara, Nirvichara. Just remember these words and slowly we'll discuss all of it and we'll graduate to the next level. So what is Savitarka? That I have just explained and again I am going to repeat it here. तत्र यदा स्थूलं महाभूतेन्द्रियात्मक षोडश विकार रूपम विषयम आदाय पूर्वापरानुसंधानेन शब्दार्थ उल्लेखेन च भावना क्रियते तदा सवितर्कः समाधिः. What he's saying is that in Sankhya that we have Purusha, that is Chaitanya Swarupa. It cannot be touched by anything. It's always pure. But this pradhana or prakriti comes in close sannidhi or connection with it. It's like induction. The moment it comes close to it, it behaves as if it has chaitanya. There is some kind of a metamorphosis in pradhana. And this pradhana, the sattva, tama, rajas, which were in a perfect balance, there is a disturbance. And this whole process starts. And from that particular thing, first Mahatattva comes, then Ahankara, then Mana, okay? And then all these Pancha Tanamatras, and then you have Pancha Jnanendriyas, then Pancha Karmendriyas, then Pancha Prana, okay? All together they become 25. So what he's saying is from Pradhana or Mahaprakriti or Mula Prakriti, what are the Shodasa Vikriyas? First is Shodasa Vikara Rupa. What are these? Prakriti is of 7 types, okay? 7, what are they? One is Mula Prakriti or Pradhana, then 5 Dhanamatras, okay, and Mahatattva. Mahatattva. These are the 7. These are Prakriti. These are causes. What are the effects or Karya Rupas or Vikaras? Vikara is Karya Rupa, whatever undergoes modification. And these Vikaras are 16. What are they? So, Mahabhutendriyatmaka Shodasa Vikara Rupam. So, you have Pancha Mahabhuta, okay, Prithvi of Tejo by Vyakasa. So you have these 5 elements, material elements. Then you have Pancha Pranas, okay, and then you have Pancha Jnanendriya and Pancha Karmendriya. That we have discussed that again and again. So this Pancha Jnanendriya and Karmendriya 10, Pancha Bhuta, that is 15. Then you have to add 1 Manas. Manas is that Sukshma, Jnanendriya which is inside. And then together these are 16 vikaras. Vishamadaya purva para anusandhanena sabdartha ullakhena cha bhavana kriyate tada savitarkaha. Savitarkaha is beautifully explained as sthulavaga, and vitarka is visheshana tarkanam. Visheshena tarkanam avadharanam. That is vitarka. That means very comprehensive in a nice way, in a specific way. You have a nishchayatmika kriya in your consciousness. You are trying to understand it. Tarkanam, avadharanam. You are knowing. That is what is essentially mentioned as vitarka. Okay? Vishesha upasarga plus tarkanam tarka. That is how he is explaining it. Now, when it is savda, artha, and jnana, it is specified by savda, artha, jnana. If you take a cow, the gotva, what is the gotva? Dharma. And that is and what is the word? Go. And then artha is what? That cow with that goes to a Vishishta object, which has cowness in it, and then Jnana, which happens in the mind, is a process of this subjective apprehension in philosophical language. The subjective capture of that external object, and then it becomes Jnana, that knowledge. So these three things, when together, you're meditating on Lord Vishnu or a cow or a Vrishava or a Surya or anything, when these are kind of taking into account that Vastu Vishesha, the name of that Vastu, that means Sabda Vishesha, and its Jnana, then together that is Savitarka Samadhi, Vitarka Samadhi. अस्मिन् एव आलम्बने पूर्वापर अनुसंधान शब्दार्थ उल्लेख शून्यत्वेन यदा भावना प्रवर्तते सा तदा निर्वितर्कः. However, what is nirvitarka? When you are actually no more limited by, so let me put it like this. So when you are looking at a horse, let's imagine, or let's take the issue of apple, it's much easier. So you have the appleness, which is full of appleness, the object with appleness, and the word called apple, and the jnana, appleness. And just imagine, now try to be a child of about 2 years of age or 1 year of age, and you haven't seen an apple before, and you are in a deep meditation, or you're looking at it as a child. What are you looking at? You are looking at an object. For us, that's a red object, it's semicircular, because we know these words. That's a fruit. We know the word fruit. It's very tasty. We know these things. That means these are smriti sapeksha. These are dependent on the memory of these things we have learned. And the sound apple, we have learned it. It's all in our memory. When we associate what we have learned about it, which is there stored in our memory, in a hard disk, we are using this information to immediately process the reception of this object and call it an apple. So there is a certain Vishishta Jnana which is happening. Just imagine, which is Nirvikalpaka. We just see that object and meditate on it. That particular thing is Nirvitaraka. That means this whole connectivity or jumbling together of this Sabda, Artha, and Jnana is not there. It's Artha Matra Prakashanam. You're only looking at that object and meditating on it. What does it mean for a meditator? That means he starts with Saguna Sakara. He remembers a lot of things he has heard about Lord Krishna. Then he's meditating. Okay, he's meditating, and what is Lord Krishna? Then things fall off. Then here only meditating, even all no names, no forms, nothing. Huh? This whole simple presence is just appearing in his mind. No thoughts anymore. Okay, you're deeply meditating, so there are no thoughts anymore. No qualities of Lord Krishna. Just image of Lord Krishna is appearing in a meditation, and you are in a very quiet state. There are no theories. Theories have been dropped off. There are no ideas that he is very handsome, Navakishwara Krishna, Yogeshwara Krishna, no words. All the words have gone. The word Krishna, any mantra ucharana, no. What is there? Just the image of Lord Krishna. So that is Nirvitarka Samadhi. That is one, in a very layman's way of making sense of it, because it's a technical subject. Okay? Bhavana pravartate tada nirvitarkaha. Etu ubhayopi atra vitarka sabdena ukto. So this vitarka, nirvitarka, both the things are vitarka samadhi only. Grahya vastu vishishta. Tar Tanamatra antakarana lakshanam sukshma vishayam alambya tasya desakala dharmavachedena yada bhavana pravartate tada savicharaha. So now we will go to the next level. Okay? What is the next level? Imagine we are having Panchabhutas, right? If you are looking at Lord Shiva's idol, it's made of stone, it's a semicircular thing, and you're meditating on it. Okay? It's semi-cylindrical, semicircular, and it's standing dark in color, but you drop all these names and forms, you just see the Sivalingam is established, that's fine. But if you go beyond it, so you are meditating like a Kashmiri Saivite, you are not meditating on Lord Shiva with any name and form, but you are meditating on Lord Shiva as Shivatva, that means Shubha. Shiva means Shubha. That's why we say Shiva, Shiva. That means let auspicious things happen. Where you're just meditating on that. No name and form, nothing. Huh? I'm talking about the Sukshma. Like, for example, Bhuta Akasha. You're meditating on the Akasha. Just imagine there's something called Sukshma Akasha. And it is Vichara Sapeksha. You cannot use your senses to reach there. You're using your analytical ability and you are doing the analysis to reach at what are those subtle aspects of it. So you are meditating on subtle space, you are meditating on subtle smell or subtle sound, which is not audible to the ears. You're meditating on that aspect. Sukshma abhava, that is savichara. So it's a very subtle state. It's much advanced compared to vitarka, right? Tanamatra antagarana lakshanam sukshma vishaya alambya. So this sukshma vishaya, the subtle aspects, subtle realities that you are meditating on, tasya desa kala dharma vachena jeda bhavana pravartate tada savichara. Now, if you are meditating on these tanamatras, but desa kala, the time and space are there in your consciousness. Okay, if time and space are there, these are super sensitive matters. Okay, this is not easily graspable from the Western philosophical point of view because these people are dealing with super subtle matters and it requires a little meditation to be able to grasp what they're trying to say. He's saying that if you're imagining a subtle object, imagine you are imagining a black hole, you're meditating on that, or you're meditating on dark matter. If you are meditating on dark matter, which is Sukshma Vastu, you're meditating on it. And then dark matter, because you are there and you're seeing dark matter in time and space, because as Immanuel Kant says, it's impossible to imagine of anything beyond time and space. So it becomes time and space avachirna, differentiated by time and space, because you are meditating on the galaxy now and galaxy nearest to you. Okay, that is desa kala parichinna, differentiated, defined by space and time. That is savichara, slightly inferior. But imagine if you are meditating now on the nature of dark matter, only dharmi. You are only dharmi. And your dark matter, what are the dharma and the qualities and all, they kind of this nirvikalpaka. These qualities and other things you have studied in physics, those ideas drop. Like an artha and the sabda, artha, jnana, this jumble falls. What are you? The same. That was thula, this is sukshma. The same sabikalpaka, nirvikalpaka. So it becomes nirvikalpaka, means what? That dark matter, that subject matter, appears in your consciousness without the description about it as to what all you have studied in physics, that this is what is dark matter. This I have studied in modern physics. This guy has given a wonderful lecture and all that. This memory is dropped. All the theories are dropped. You're only meditating subtle matter without name and form, without time and space. That becomes nirvichara. But still, it's meditation. That means what? This fellow has not yet reached to himself, his own consciousness. He's still meditating on something external to it, but subtle. Okay, that much is, we can keep it there. And then asmin eva alambane desa kala dharma vachedam bina dharmi matra avabhasitvena yada bhavana pravartade tada nirvicharaha. That is clear. So if you remove time and space and you're just purely meditating on that object, which is the alambana, which is the foundation, which is the support of your meditation, that becomes nirvichara. Etau ubhau api atra vichara savdena uktau. So the vichara means both savichara and nirvichara. This much is clear. Tathacha bhavyam vitarka chittasya sthula alambane abhagoho sukshmi vichara iti. That means now he's saying when the bhavya padartha, that means whatever you are meditating on. So bhavyasya punar niveshanam is the bhavana, that is what is samadhi, that you're putting it again and again. And then he comes here to now explain what he's saying is that when this sthula alambana abhoga is there, you are meditating on a gross object as the focus of your meditation, that is vitaraka or savitaraka. When it is on a sukshma object or a subtle object, that is vichara. That is how much is explained. Now let's move forward. Yam grahya samapatti iti vyapadisyate. These are grahya samapatti. That means what? There is something external to your consciousness. He's clarifying this because he'll now take us to the grahana level, the process of reception. The meditation is now on the object of reception, which is out of the process of reception. This is grahya samapatti vyapadisyate. Then yada rajastamo लेस अनुबिद्ध अंतकरण सत्वं भाव्यते तदा गुण भावात् चित्शक्तेः सुख प्रकाशमयस्य सत्वस्य भाव्यमानस्य उद्रेकात् सानन्दः समाधिर्भवति. The next level is Sananda Samadhi. Ananda, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmita. We'll go one by one. Now we are coming to the Ananda. You know what happens here? Then he's saying is that Rajas and Tamas, the Sambandha, so Anubiddha Antakarna Sattvam Bhavyate. So when he's saying is that this Antakarna is kind of having a very weak link and kind of free from the interference in Rajas and Tamas, and then the Suddha Sattva kind of flourishes, blossoms in you. Okay, because guna tada guna bhavat chissakte, hey, that consciousness, the pure consciousness that you have, that chissakti, sukha prakasamyasya sattvasya bhavyamanasya udreka sanandha samadhi bhavati. So what happens is that because all the gunas, they have become kind of very, almost emaciated. They're not very visible. They are not asserting their presence in our consciousness. That means we are slowly becoming nirgunatmaka, not yet, but the gunas have become, have diminished in terms of their presence and impact and interference and parinama, the modifications in the consciousness. When they have been reduced, then what happens? He's saying sanandaha samadhir bhavati. Then the meditation here is no more on the grahya vastu, but the meditation is on the grahana vastu, the indriyas through which you are meditating, the mind and the indriyas. Then your consciousness is meditating on these indriyas, the means of perception, the objects of perception. It's been withdrawn. It's withdrawing within. So what is the next gate? Is the indriyas, the gate through which the external objects take shape in our consciousness. So what happens is saying this grahana. This is grahya, then grahana. So he's saying samadhi bhavati asmin eva samadhu ye. Okay, and in this samadhi, vriddha dhritayas tattva tattvantaram pradhana purusha rupam na pashyanti te vigata dehankara twadi videha savdena uchyante. So he's saying that in this particular samadhi, which is sananda samadhi, Asmin eva samadhu, in this samadhi, ye, those people, those sadhakas, those aspirants, baddha dhritayas tattvantaram pradhana purusha rupam na pashyanti te vigata dehankaratvad videha savdena uchyate iyam grahana samapatti. This is grahana samapatti. He's trying to say that even though you have sort of gone beyond the grahya vastus, the objects of your meditation, you are not somebody who has gone beyond all levels to become satrupa. No, you're still in an intermediate stage, and it's called grahana samapatti. And it's also used as a videha sabda, is also used to explain it. There is a feeling of ananda, this is in meditation, suddenly gives you a feeling of happiness and joyfulness. It's a meditation and an experience of joy that you have in that third level. Vitarga, Vichara, now you are having Sananda Samadhi. Okay, then you will go further up from there. He's saying, Tatha param rajastamo lesena lesa anavibhutam suddham sattvam alambani kritya ya bhavana pravartate tasyam grahyasya sattvasya nyag bhava chit saktehe udrekat satta matra avaseshatvena samadhi sasmita iti uchyate. Then what happens? There is further refinement of your consciousness. You are experiencing a joyfulness because you are being conscious of the methods of perception. You are being conscious of the indriyas and you are meditating. That meditation gives you a feeling of happiness, joyfulness. Like sometimes you can describe this to the level of this, in a deep sleep, you have a great happiness, right? Similarly, you have a feeling of happiness here. And then he's saying that you further go up, okay? And then when you go beyond this, you have that asmita. What is asmita? Asmita is mentioned here is ekatmika sambit. Ekatmika sambit. What is that ekatmika? is Purushakara Sambit, right? This is a Chaitanya Swarupa, an awareness of the self. But remember, this is not Purushakara. It is mentioned very clear, Purushakara, but this is not realization of the difference between Prakriti and Purusha. So far, we don't distinguish between Prakriti and Purusha. We are still trapped because we confuse Prakriti to give us all the freedom. We are still trapped in the Prakriti because we are Karya Rupa of Prakriti. And therefore, we have to distinguish that we are not Prakriti, but we are Purusha. That is a much higher stage. So here you have that Ekatmika Sambit, that is Asmita. And this is different from Ahankara. There is a difference of opinion between different commentators in the Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Vartikakara says that is Ahankara Vishishta Purusha. That is the Grahita. That is where you have Asmita. There is some Ahankara, otherwise he'll be liberated. Whereas here, Madhusudana Saraswati is saying, no, no, don't confuse this Asmita with Ahankara because he's giving it a higher pedestal. But we leave these academic debates to the scholars. We focus on our main purpose to make it useful for our discussion on the Bhagavad Gita श्लोक analysis. ततः परम रजस्तमो लेस अनभिभूतं शुद्धं सत्त्वमात्र सत्त्वम् आलम्बनीकृत्य या भावना प्रवर्तते तस्यां ग्राह्यस्य सत्त्वस्य न्यग्भावात्. And because even this whole process, that sattva thing, that also becomes thin. And chit saktehe udrekat, and then the pure consciousness, that satta matra eva, that means that who is seeing it, that ananda also becomes very dull, it loses its relevance. Then you are just meditating on the subject who is meditating on it. So the consciousness has withdrawn from external objects to the process of receiving those objects to now the receiver of the subject. Okay, so this is a much higher level, and that is called Sananda Samadhi. Not ahankara asmitayor abheda sankanyaha. He's saying that, oh my friends, don't confuse this asmita with ahankara. Yato यत्र अंतकरण अहम इति उल्लेखेन विषयान वेदयते सो अहंकारः. So when you say this is a dog, I'm aware of this dog, that is what is called ahankara. But here this particular narrative is no more there. There is only pure consciousness of the presence of the subject, and therefore you cannot call it ahankara. Yatra to antaramukhataya, and when you have become inwardly oriented, pratiloma parinamena, and you have this modification of your consciousness, parinama, prakriti lene chetasi, and this consciousness is kind of now focused and meditating on the prakriti lene chetasi, satta matra abhavati, satta matram abhavati sa asmita, asmin eva samavo ye कृत परितोषाः ते परम पुरुषम अपश्यन्तः चेतसः प्रकृतो लीनत्वात् प्रकृतिलया इति उच्यन्ते. Now you see he's giving a backhanded compliment, and we will finish this paragraph here. What he's saying is that, remember, this Sasmita Samadhi is not the ultimate stage. The person who, without understanding the distinction between the Prakriti and the Purusha, it thinks that this is the best state because I'm already meditating and I'm Atmastha. Atmastha can mean a lot of things depending on how we are looking at it. The Sasmita Samadhi is also one Atmastha Avastha, but not the ultimate one. Why? Because it's Prakriti Lina Tvat. You are still meditating on what is a Vikari Padartha. Atma is a Vikari. That Purusha is a Vikari. Prakriti is Vikari. You're still meditating on it. And therefore, that is not moksha. You will again get trapped in the games of Prakriti. So he's saying that those who are samadho, ye krita paritoshaha, those who are very happy, contented. Purusham apashantah, they are not yet able to see the Purusha, that Shuddha Satta Chaitanya Swarupa, Chetasaha Prakruto Linatva, because his consciousness is kind of dissolved in the Prakriti. Linatva, Prakriti Laya. So this Prakriti Laya, that name is given to that Samadhi. Sayam Grahitri Samapattihi Asmida Matra Rupa Gahitri Nishthatva. This is what is called Gahitri Samapatti. Grahya Samapatti, Grahana Samapatti. So Grahana Samapatti is Sananda, meditation in the senses and stuff like that. Now it is Gahitri Samapatti, that means the meditation on the subject who is meditating. ये तो परम पुरुषम विविच्य भावनायां प्रवर्तन्ते तेषामपि केवल पुरुष विषया विवेक ख्यातिर ग्रहित्री समापत्ति इति न सस्मितः. However, the people who do that vichara, not happy, read a lot of more philosophy, do a lot of more analysis, and they are able to meditate on that Purusha. Yeah, they have Viveka Khyati. That is not Sasmita. That is a level much beyond this Sasmita Samadhi. Viveka Vivekena asmitayaha tyagat, because doing viveka through analysis, they also dump this wealth of imagination called I have atmastha, avastha, through this asmita samadhi, which is very pleasant. I'm feeling very happy. They dump it because they know this is also prakriti laya. It will also get dissolved, and it has come out of the prakriti, go to the prakriti. But I'm pure consciousness. But that happens with viveka khyati. We'll go forward tomorrow. This is where we have sort of, we'll take another couple of days to finish these yoga discussion. So I stop here, and any questions I'll take up. And those of you who are listening to this channel, thank you, and you can, sort of subscribe to get alerts on it. Okay, any questions?